for watching another episode of Insightful Principles. In today's content, I'm going to talk about my personal 3 favorite personal finance books that have changed my life. And the very first book is called The Geometry of Wealth: How to Shape a Life of Money and Meaning by Brain Portnoy. Very great book. It's really a behavioral finance book that really has the author go down this journey where he's describing the differences between wealth and being rich. And with wealth, it's defined as contentment. You're moving and operating to develop a meaningful life. And with contentment, it doesn't mean that you're settling or you are just accepting the status quo, but rather you are stopping the goalpost from moving, and you know when enough is enough. When you are attempting to become rich, that leads to an unsatisfying treadmill where you're constantly trying to chase the next thing, and that just never ends. So the first concept in the book is he talks about how we can't control all parts of our financial lives. However, we do possess an astonishing amount of agency. Now, what exactly does that mean? He's tying in about how the human brain is a very powerful tool to help us be able to solve our different financial issues. And it's a concept called fast versus slow thinking. With fast thinking is you're acting spontaneously based on situations that you may have experienced in the world. For example, if you're driving on the road and you see someone jump out on the road, what's the first thing you're going to do? You're going to hit your brakes. So the brain is always scanning for just dangers and having awareness of things in our environment that could potentially be dangerous. When we come against dangers, most of the time our brain just happens to think unconsciously. It's kind of like muscle memory. And this can also relate to your financial decisions. You know, have you ever had one time where you spent a large sum of cash and you didn't really think about it? I know for me, when I was in college, when I got my refund checks, you know, I was going right to the mall, you know, spending it on clothes and buying sneakers, all types of crazy stuff. So I've been there before when you kind of just think very quickly and you don't really think about your decision, but you just kind of just randomly just go out and spend, you know, a large sum of money. Now, we also have something with our minds called the slow brain, which this is in charge of rational thought and analyzing difficult decisions. Now, the author actually pulled the study from the Encyclopedia of the Social and Behavioral Sciences, stating that 40% of the choices that we make in our lives are conscious decisions. If you utilize your slow brain to make those decisions, you'll be well on your way to financial fulfillment. Now, one of the next concepts was gratitude is good for both your purse and your soul. A very important reminder to keep in mind, and just knowing that financial health isn't always about crunching numbers, budgeting, making investments, but you have to be thankful on the progress that you have made within your life financially. And you have to appreciate your process and be happy that you are taking those steps, whether that's paying down your debt or saving up $1 million in your investment portfolio, being able to buy a home for the first time, just kind of enjoying the process and really being thankful for the journey. And gratitude really shifts our attitudes and changes the way that we spend as well. Because if you're grateful for the food that you have in your fridge, you're not focused on having to go out to buy a gourmet meal. You know, when you're grateful for the returns that you have accumulated within your portfolio, you're not focused on making crazy risks within the market. Now, the next book that is really one of my favorites is The Psychology of Money by Morgan Housel, where he's talking about Morgan Housel, and he's talking about timeless lessons on wealth, greed, and happiness. And this is really a book, another behavioral finance book that's highlighting how our minds and our habits impact our financial decisions. And The Psychology of Money will teach you how to have a better relationship when it comes to money and making smarter financial decisions. So the very first concept in the book, the experiences we have early in life will determine our financial decisions later in life. So what Morgan is trying to get at with this topic is that everyone's backgrounds are different. Some people grow up learning about investing, others may not have learned anything about investing. And a study was actually developed throughout the book detailing how people invest according to how the economy looked like when they were growing up. So if you had someone that dealt with high inflation back in the 80s, they may not think that bonds are a good investment in today's climate because they're knowing that we're in a high inflationary environment and it may dictate their investment decisions. Or let's say you have someone that grew up in the Great Recession and they lost everything with their home because of the subprime mortgage crisis. They may have a different opinion on investing in real estate because of the situation that they went through within the Great Recession. So it's vital that we look at our hidden biases and also understand how we think so we can be able to improve our decision making when it comes to our finances. And any financial decision that you make in life should be backed by analysis, logic, reliable facts, and an open mind to have a different perspective. And the author actually highlights how you have to adapt your thinking and be willing to get rid of old beliefs. So if you were taught that, money doesn't grow on trees and it was such a taboo subject, you have to reframe and reverse engineer your thinking to want to have those conversations now and have a plan in place so your financial situation can look a lot different than those in your family. Because the decisions that you make in the market, whether that's, selling your stocks when the market is down, it could definitely wipe years of savings that you have planned towards that. Now, if you had another mind frame and said, I'm going to hold these and stay the course, your financial trajectory can look a whole lot different than someone that just randomly sells out of nowhere. Next concept I really enjoyed in the book is getting money versus keeping money. Now, obtaining money, it comes with taking risks, being positive about the future, and also taking a chance on yourself. Keeping money is the complete opposite of taking risks. It's more about discipline, delayed gratification, humility, and awareness, meaning that as the Lord giveth, He can also take it away. So you have to be thankful for what you have accumulated within your portfolios. Don't be greedy. Don't feel like you got to keep going and chase more and more. And know that your past success in the market doesn't guarantee future performance. So you want to be frugal, and you just above all else want to have awareness of preserving your money and don't make irrational decisions in the market. Now, the last book, which is another one of my favorites, a lot of you might have heard about it, Millionaire Next Door, the Surprising Secrets of the American's Wealthy by Thomas J. Stanley. Now, the main theme of this book is the author is really looking at the traits of wealthy people, and it's not what you would think. It's not about the big house. It's not about the shiny car, the jewelry, the materialistic things that we see on TV, but rather the book highlights how wealthy people actually reject big spending habits often shown by the rich, and they're actually much more frugal with their money. So some of the traits that were highlighted was millionaires spend according to their budget. Budgeting is how you become and stay wealthy. You don't need to be concerned about high consumption products and services, because all of that's going to do is keep you in the hamster wheel. It's going to keep you in a rat race. And you want to be aware of what you're spending your money on, and you want to have those boundaries in place when it comes to your budget. The next concept was don't worry about showing a high status. Most millionaires, they live in middle class neighborhoods and they drive American vehicles. So they're not driving these foreign vehicles. They tend to be very aware of what they're spending on vehicles. And in fact, most people purchase used vehicles. They don't even go out and buy a brand new vehicle. And it also talked about that 50% of millionaires never spend more than $29,000 on a motor vehicle throughout their entire life. So I thought that was pretty eye-opening. Also, they invest 15% before they pay anyone else. So I'm talking about before the phone bill, before the car insurance, before the auto loan, before any credit cards if you have some. The author explains how millionaires will put 15% before they allocate any of their money towards their fixed expenses, their variable expenses, and people accumulate wealth by minimizing their realized taxable income and maximizing their unrealized non-taxable income. So what I mean by that is your realized income is your earned income that you have with your job. You may get a paycheck, they take taxes out. Unrealized non-taxable money is more if you have a retirement account, a tax advantage retirement account, such as a Roth IRA. And what a Roth IRA does is an individual has the ability to invest in this retirement account, and you can invest in stocks, you can invest in a lot of other different index funds within the market. And as long as you are 59 and a half, that will be tax-free growth, and you also have tax-free withdrawals, meaning when you pull the money from the account, you're not going to be taxed at, whatever your tax bracket is. So it's a great way to understand that pay yourself before you pay anyone else, and make sure that you have tax advantage retirement accounts that are going to be much more suitable and are going to work in your favor when you get older, when you wanting to pull that money from your retirement. And then the last thing is that they spend on good financial planners, estate attorneys, and also accountants. Now, the education you surround yourself ultimately is going to determine the amount of wealth that you build for yourself and also for your family. And most millionaires, they pay a tiny fraction of wealth and income tax. So you got to have a team behind you. And when you talk about passing wealth down within your family to your children, you need to have those right people around you that have that expertise. So that wraps it up for this video. I hope these books were helpful. Definitely some great reads when it comes to personal finance and just when it comes to the mind and money. And I thank you all so much for watching this video. If you could please subscribe to the channel. Don't forget to like this video, leave a comment. Also hit that notification bell below so you can be notified every week when I drop content. And I thank you all so much for tuning into another episode, and take care.